Garmin R50, Foresight GC3. They're both awesome. Just go pick one and buy it because they're both great, and that's solve your problem, right? That's why you're here. You just want me to tell you to buy one of them? Go buy one of them. You'll be happy. All right, so that's not very helpful? All right, I get it. Because despite the fact both of these launch monitors are kind of similar on the surface, they really appeal to two completely different types of people and two different needs. And so if you've been considering buying one of these devices, then keep watching. I'm gonna break it into 12 categories. I'm gonna pick a winner for each one, which is hopefully gonna allow you to kind of narrow down which one of these, if either of them, are the right fit for your needs. All right, let's not waste any time. Let's do this thing. Packaging and presentation. Honestly, both of these devices, very high-end, very expensive, and they feel like it. You open it up and it doesn't feel like they cheaped out on the packaging. It doesn't feel like you're opening a subpar unit. So this category is pretty easy. It's a tie because the packaging on both of these devices is very good. Also, one thing we should probably point out before we go too far is the GC3 and the GC3s, exactly the same device. It's just a question of how you pay for it. So one is going to be more expensive and have no subscription. One is going to be less expensive and have a subscription. We're going to talk about that later on, but for the most part, outside of pricing, for this video, you can assume the GC3, the GC3s are pretty much the same device. Size. So how portable are these devices? Well, the Garmin R50 is huge. When I first opened this thing up, I was legitimately kind of shocked with how big it is, and part of that is because it has that big, beautiful screen. The GC3 is a much more manageable size. If you have a decent sized golf bag, you could actually probably fit it in the garment pocket. So if you want something that's a little more discreet, if you're planning to take your device out to the range a lot, travel around with it, the GC3 is definitely the more portable of the two units. That being said, it does not come with a carrying case. The Garmin R50, on the other hand, does come with an excellent carrying case. And so even though it's huge, this carrying case makes it a little bit easier to carry around, and it's probably the second best case that I've used outside of the Unicore iMini, which that thing has the coolest case ever. One more little wrench to throw into this whole portability thing is if you buy the GC3, you do get a GC3 sling bag. So it's a very nice bag that makes the GC3 even more portable, but if you want that for the GC3s, you're gonna have to buy it separately. So in the end, it doesn't change the winner of this category, which is still the GC3, the GC3s. Just know that if you buy the more expensive version, then it gets even better because you get that bag included. Okay, next category, ease of setup. For some reason, whether it's the Bushnell Launch Pro, the Foresight GC3, I always have some funky setup issues with these devices. Now, once you get going, once you're logged in, once you set up your account, everything is pretty much smooth sailing from there, but I've always had just minor hiccups, and I usually end up on the phone with Foresight support. The Garmin, on the other hand, it's literally as plug and play as it gets. It takes seconds to set up. It is super easy. So if you're looking for something that's beginner friendly and legitimately about as plug and play as it gets, you got to go with the R50 on this one. And to be clear, the GC3, it's all stuff you can handle. It's not like it's bad for the most part. It's just a little bit more technical, and at times I've run into a few more bugs and quirks than I have with the R50. Okay, next category is space requirements. So the good news about this is that both of these are optical devices. So you basically sit the device right next to the ball as opposed to Doppler units, which have to sit 7 to 8 feet behind the ball. So this allows you to use either of these units in less space. And for the most part, these two devices, they need a similar amount of space, so there's no huge, clear, obvious winner here. So this category is a tie. All right, this is gonna be a big one for a lot of you, and that is accuracy. Both of these devices I have found to be very accurate. Over the course of my reviews, I put both of them up against a TrackMan, and overall, they both performed really well. Overall, I found both of these units to work really well both indoors and outdoors. I will say with the Garmin, there have been a few more anomalies, a couple like spin rate issues, and with longer clubs and wedges, I had some funky things go on occasionally. I've also seen some comments in my reviews from other people that have the R50 that early on did have some accuracy issues, but I believe a lot of those have been fixed with firmware, and most of those funky issues that they experience, I didn't personally have when I was doing my own testing. The GC3, on the other hand, I have found to be rock solid. This is the device that I have used over the last few years as kind of my reference device. Up until recently, we're now indoors, I have access to a TrackMan. When I am out on a range and I'm looking to compare accuracy across devices, this is the one that I use because I've just found it to be the most reliable and the most accurate. Also, even though though Foresight has released the updated GC3s and the new GC3, it's essentially the same hardware that they have been using for the last like 4+ years with those devices. So you can take that one of two ways. You might be thinking, oh, like that's kind of old, like the new stuff is probably better. Or you could take it as, well, they've had 4 years to work out all the bugs to make this thing as good as it possibly can be. And when it comes to accuracy with the GC3, I think it's definitely the latter. It just works. It works really well, and I have not had any issues. So even though right now, if I were personally looking to buy one of these devices, accuracy would not be a big concern for me. I'm gonna give the edge to the GC3 because in my experience, it's just been a little bit more reliable. Next category is screen, and this is probably pretty obviously a no-brainer. The screen on the R50 blows away the screen on any other launch monitor out there. The screen on the GC3, it's fine. It can show you 6 metrics at a time, and if you want that club data, it's gonna kind of cycle through, which I don't personally love. It would be nice to see everything all at once. But the fact it does have a screen at all, and the fact you don't have to pair it with an app, if you just want to take it out to the range and get some yardages, keep everything super simple, you can do that. But the screen on the R50 is absolutely phenomenal. It's as big as an iPad, it's full color, it's super customizable, and you can even get super slow motion replays of the ball at impact directly on the device. So when it comes to screen quality, screen usability, screen features, it is no question the R50 wins this one. Okay, next we're gonna go with software experience. So we were talking about first-party software, and this was where things get a little bit tricky because I don't personally love FSX Pro. That is the iPad software that Foresight uses that you would use with the GC3. It is very professional. It's very customizable. You can do a whole lot. You can get a whole lot of data. So if you are that person where you want to dig into all of the stats, it is excellent. But personally, I tend to prefer FlightScope, SkyTrack, or some of the other pieces of software out there. Because of these critiques, you might think that I would be awarding this category to the R50, but you would be wrong because arguably, at least in my opinion, the biggest flaw of the R50 is its app, is its software integration, because it's really bad. Like, it's just for a $5,000 launch monitor, this thing should be able to do so much more. And this has kind of been the case with the Garmin Golf app for a long time. It can do a lot of stuff, which is great. It can pair with your GPS watches, the Z30 rangefinder. Like if you're in the Garmin ecosystem, having one app that can do everything is great. But despite minor updates for the release of the R50, this app hasn't really been updated in years since the release of the Garmin R10, the much less expensive Garmin launch monitor. So if you're someone who wants to customize all your different data, get different screens, compare different clubs, performance, do stuff over time, you just don't really have a lot of options within the Garmin Golf app. So even though I don't love the usability of the Foresight app, it is way better than what you get with Garmin. So for this category, I've got to give it to the GC3. I will say, if you're primarily planning to use your launch monitor with an iPad for like range practice, then the software experience is going to be a huge part of that. And you might consider looking at some other options out there just because some other options out there do provide a much better software and usability experience. Every one of these devices has pros and cons, so if you switch to something else, there might be some other pros and cons, but just take all that for what it's worth. Next, let's talk about using these devices as a simulator and third-party options. So there's a lot that's going into this because while some people want a launch monitor just to get numbers and practice, some people don't really care about the numbers. They just want to have fun playing simulator golf. Now the good news is both of these can do this really well. When the R50 was released, some of these third-party options weren't available, but we're getting past that now as they start to roll out updates. So you can use GS Pro, you can use E6, which is really great to see. If you are looking for first-party simulator options, then you can go one of two ways with this, and there's probably not going to be a whole lot of middle ground for you here, so let's talk about it. So if you go with the GC3, you get access to FSX Pro, which is the iPad software. You get access to FSX 2020, which is the older but more full-featured simulator software, and you get access to FSX Play, which is their newest, most high-fidelity HD software, which I absolutely love. If you're not planning to use GS Pro or Golf Club 2019 or some of these other third-party simulator options, you just want the first-party stuff that comes with this device, then honestly, Foresight is the way to go. I love FSX Play. It's one of my favorite simulator softwares to use, and it looks phenomenal. That being said, there's a cost associated with that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but let's look at the Garmin. So when it comes to Garmin's first-party simulator software, things are a little bit more limited. The big thing that Garmin provides is Home T Hero. So this is kind of like a simulator light. So it's not super high-fidelity graphics, although the graphics have been improved over what you got with the R10, but you can play simulated rounds on over 43,000 different courses. So you can pretty much play a simulated round on any course you could ever want, which is really cool. Also, it shows up directly on the unit itself, which is really cool, because if you want to use any of the Foresight simulator software, you can't even use it on an iPad. You have to have a gaming PC, which is going to bump up the cost of your setup significantly. So if you're someone who favors ease of use, you don't need super high fidelity graphics, Home T Hero could be great, because you literally turn on your device, you start it up, you take an HDMI cord and you plug it into your TV or your projector, whatever you got, and you're good to go. And if you don't want a TV or a projector, you can still play it directly on the device. So you do not need a gaming PC, which I know is appealing to a lot of people. So for this category, I'm going to give the edge to the GC3 just because the native Foresight software is so good and it's compatible with just about every third-party solution out there. But again, keep in mind that might not mean much if you are someone who prefers the super easy built-in features of Home T Hero. And even though the R50 isn't compatible with quite as many third-party solutions, it's pretty much compatible with all the major ones you're most likely to use, including E6 Connect and GS Pro. Hey, real quick, two things. Are you still not sure if one of these is right for you or if you're looking for a different device altogether? Go take our 30-second quiz. You're gonna answer a few questions around what you're looking for, and I'm gonna give you my best recommendation based on the device that I think is going to be the best fit for your needs. That is linked below. You can do that right now while you watch the rest of this video. And also, one other disclaimer while I've got you here, if you click any of the product links below, I will get a commission on those products. To be clear, I do not care whether or not you buy these or any other products. My whole goal here at Breaking 80 is just to help you find the right products for your needs. So hopefully you get some value out of that. If you do decide one of these is right for you and you buy through one of those links, then it allows me to continue making more videos like this for you. But honestly, no pressure either way. Okay, let's get back to the video. Okay, so for the next two categories, we're going to talk about price and then subscriptions. So let's start with basic price. The Garmin R50 is the easy one here. It's $5,000. It's $49.99. And for the most part, that's pretty much all you got to pay for an excellent setup. The Foresight GC3, on the other hand, is $3,799. So about $1,200 cheaper. So on the surface, you're like, yeah, it seems like a better deal. But as we all know, looks can sometimes be deceiving, because in order to use any of the software we talked about, you've got to pay for the subscription, so we'll get to that in a second. And keep in mind, if you want to do any kinds of simulated rounds of golf, you're going to need a gaming PC. So in the end, it can end up being a significantly more expensive endeavor. On the other side of the equation, we also have the GC3, which is $6,999. What's great about that is there's no subscription fee. So we're going to talk about what that fee is in just a minute. But if you're someone who likes the idea of just being like, you know what, I just want to pay one thing, one time, I don't want to think about it ever again, then you can go get the GC3, pay more upfront, and have lifetime access to that suite of Foresight software. So for this category, just because it is technically the cheapest, and we're just talking just devices here, we're going to give it to the GC3, GC3s, but with a big ol' caveat that we're going to talk to in just a second about subscriptions. So with subscriptions, again, let's start with the simple one, which is the R50. There is what they call the Garmin Golf membership, which costs $99 a year. You are going to need that if you want to play Home T Heroes. So that simulator light experience where you can play 43,000 courses or whatever, you got to pay $99 a year, but honestly, for what you get, that feels like a really good value. One thing that's cool about the Garmin Golf membership is if you have other Garmin devices, it's all one membership. So let's say you have a Garmin Golf watch. One of the other features that unlocks is green speeds and green breaks. So when you're playing a round of golf, with every compatible Garmin device you have, you'll be able to see a heat map of the greens to allow you to better understand what the breaks are looking like, what the speeds are, and improve your round. So the fact that is all under one membership and it's under $100, that is a really good value in the world of golf subscriptions, which can sometimes get a little egregious. Speaking of egregious, we have the GC3s. So $37.99 to start, but if you want to use any of that software, you have to pay a $500 a year subscription for their gold package. And so that's going to give you full access to FSX Play, FSX Pro, and FSX 2020. But here's the thing. Let's say you don't care about Foresight software and you're like a lot of people and all you want to do is use GS Pro. Well, in order to use any third-party simulator option or simulator software, you still have to have that premium subscription. So if you want to use GS Pro on the GC3s, you're going to have to pay the $500 Foresight subscription, and you're going to have to pay the $250 a year GS Pro subscription. So it's $750 a year just to use GS Pro on the GC3s. And that's a whole lot of money. Like, that's that's getting to be a lot. So yeah, even though GC3s, it gets you in the door a little bit cheaper than the Garmin, it ends up being much more expensive over time. So if that seems like a lot to you, which it is, then that might make the GC3 and paying that one-time fee a little bit more appealing because you don't have to pay that annual subscription just to be able to use GS Pro. And if that wasn't enough, one more wrench to throw into this equation is if you buy the GC3 or the GC3s, your first year of subscription is free and you get a free year of GS Pro. So for the first year, your costs are much lower and much more reasonable. But over time, they then will get more expensive. And after all is said and done, the Garmin is still going to win for subscription because at 99 bucks a year, that feels very reasonable for what you get, and you don't have the just confusing nature of the Foresight ecosystem, which I get is kind of confusing. It's a lot. Okay, few categories left. We might have ended up having more than, what did I say, 12? There might be a couple more than that, but hey, just that much more information to help you make the right decision. The next category is enjoyment or fun. Which one of these devices is actually more fun to use? Now, again, I know this is going to heavily depend on how you use it and what software you're using and all of that, but we're talking about just the devices themselves. If you're gonna take these out, put them on the range and use them, which one provides the more enjoyable experience? And for me, this is an easy one. It is the R50. That big, beautiful screen just makes this thing a joy to use, and it's probably my favorite launch monitor out of all of them to use when we're talking about just the unit itself and practicing. The touchscreen is super responsive. It allows you to customize exactly what metrics you see and all of that stuff. Whereas the GC3 is great, you get all your information, it just isn't as much fun or as enjoyable to use. It's definitely more utilitarian as opposed to like sleek and sexy. Now, for a lot of people, that's not going to matter at all. And again, it also matters more of how you are going to use this. If you're, say, just using GS Pro, then it doesn't really matter what the experience is like with the units themselves because you're going to be focused on the screen and the content there. But for those of you that are planning to, on a frequent basis, use either of these without all the extra simulator stuff, I found the experience using the R50 to be much more enjoyable. Now, this next category is bonuses, and this felt like a weird one to include, but I didn't know where else to put it. And it was something that has to be said because it's a pretty big deal, the bonus category. So the R50, no real bonuses. There's nothing like, I don't even know what else to call this. You get the device, you get the case, you're good to go. But the GC3 and the GC3s, they're doing something that I haven't seen before that's honestly really cool and a legitimate benefit, which is they're including a Bushnell Pro X3 link with every unit they sell. So this is, for all intents and purposes, the top of the line rangefinder on the market. You go buy this thing on its own, it's 600 bucks. It is awesome. It is bulletproof. They've had a couple iterations of it now, but it's pretty much all the same device. In my review of those units, I've said most people should not buy it because there are plenty of other less expensive rangefinders that still get the job done. But if money is no issue and you want what is the best of the best, then the Pro X3 is the one to go out and buy. But here's where things get even more interesting and even more cool. So the latest iteration that's just come out in the last couple months is the Pro X3 Link. So on top of just being a great rangefinder, what this does is it links with the data from your GC3 or GC3s. It will take your actual shot data, your distances, and it will then make club recommendations while you are on the course based off your actual data. Now the whole idea of this is pretty cool. FlightScope is also doing their own version of the same thing. There's still a big part of me that's like, is this actually needed and useful, or is it just kind of gimmicky? And that's kind of up to you to decide. So whether you think that link technology and getting club recommendations is actually useful or not, in some ways that's kind of besides the point because you are still getting an incredible $600 rangefinder with either of these devices. And so if you are in the market for a rangefinder or if you need a rangefinder, then it's definitely a big enough deal and a big enough bonus. So this category, I mean, yeah, gotta go to the GC3. And that brings us to the end. Which one of these is actually better? Well, clearly, because we had however many for the R50 and however many for the GC3, I'm not sure, I've lost count. One of these is better, right? No. Like I said in the beginning, there is no one best. These are two very different units, despite the fact so many people seem to be trying to decide between the two of them. So I'm gonna try and sum all this up and help you decide which one is right for you. So are you someone who values ease? Do Do you want everything to be as easy and as sleek and as fun, as enjoyable as possible? Then the Garmin R50 might be the right way to go. The subscription isn't that bad. You can plug it straight into your TV. You don't need a gaming PC. There's the added benefit of if you already use Garmin devices, then maybe you already have a Garmin Golf membership. And if you don't, then once you get it to use Home T Hero, you're going to get additional features on your other devices, which is nice. Do you like the idea of starting with Home T Hero and kind of a basic simulator experience, but then be able to upgrade to something like GS Pro down the line? Then the R50 is going to be a great choice for you. But alternatively, are you someone who knows all you want to do is use GS Pro? You don't care about anything else? That is what you're going for? Then the R50 is probably the way to go, because then you're not paying $750 a year like you are with the GC3s, or you save $2,000 over the GC3. So if you're just looking for GS Pro and you're in this price point, you want a high-end premium launch monitor, then I think you go with the R50. But otherwise, where I think the R50 really shines is ease of use, fun, getting people that aren't technical into a golf simulator. I think this is going to be great if you don't want to fiddle with all the extra stuff and all the technical whatever. But I kind of look at the R50 as like Apple. It's like if you just want something to work and work well and you don't want to fiddle with anything else, I think the R50 might be the move. But there's a lot of other people out there that are looking for a lot of different things. And I think the GC3 or GC3s, I think it's arguably a more versatile launch monitor. I think it's going to allow you to do more stuff. Again, if you get the GC3s, you have to pay for that stuff via their $500 a year subscription, which you do get for free for the first year, which is nice. But if you're looking for something that you're going to frequently take to the range, back home, set up in your simulator, you want something that can kind of do everything, I think the Foresight might be the better way to go, just because it is that much more portable. Like, the Garmin is big, and I felt a little awkward carrying it out to the range. But once it was there, it was also very nice to have. If you're someone who really wants to dig into data, you want to track things over time, the Foresight is definitely going to be the better option, just because, like I said, the Garmin software is lacking and it does not allow you to do a very good job of tracking all of that historical data, customizing things in the way that you would like. And the GC3, GC3s, they really allow you to do that, even if I'm not a huge fan of their iPad software, FSX Pro. If you're planning to use this in any kind of professional capacity, like maybe you're a club fitter or a teaching pro, then I would definitely go with the Foresight. It's just going to provide far more professional level features than what the R50 is capable of giving you right now. But like I said, I do think that it is arguably more accurate than the R50 at this point in time, but reiterating the fact, accuracy would not be a major concern for me with either of these. So there you go. That was a whole lot of information. But if you're serious about buying one of these, hopefully it helped you kind of compare the two in ways you hadn't might considered, and really help narrow down and distill, oh yeah, this is the device for me, or this is the one that I'm looking for. I've used both of these extensively, so if you drop a comment, I'll do my best to answer every question that I get. Although the way things have gone lately, my time is a little limited, so I can't make any promises, but I will do my best. With that, if you want more detailed thoughts on either the Foresight units or the R50, I will link to all of my dedicated reviews below, any content I have around those, as well as my content around my best launch monitor picks. So if you're kind of thinking, you know what, like, these aren't for me, or maybe I don't want to spend quite so much, or maybe I'm looking for something else, there are plenty of other options out there. And what you can also do is you can take our 30-second quiz. You're going to answer a few questions around what you were looking for, and I'm going to give you my best recommendation based on the device I think is the best fit for your needs. So that link is below. And with that, here's another video you should go watch right now that I think you're going to enjoy, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.